Good evening, all. Thank you. So, welcome all to UDCT Alumni Association's Professor G.P. Kane Memorial Oration. I am Nilesh Lele, Senior Vice President, Board of Governors, UAA, and your host for the evening. First and foremost, a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Ashok Ganguly, sir. Welcome, Professor Pandit, Vice Chancellor of Institute of Chemical Technology. Welcome, sir. A warm welcome to all our former UDCT directors, Padma Vibhushan Professor M.M. Sharma, Padma Bhushan Professor J.B. Joshi, sir. All current and past ICT faculty members. A warm welcome to Dr. Ravi Mariwala, UA Advisory Board members, past presidents of UA, and all the current BOG members, students, and everybody else who is attending today's event here at ICT. Are we all excited? Yes. Okay, good. At least I am. So this lecture series is a brainchild of UA's founding president, Mr. Kishore Mariwala, whom we lost last year on September 30th, 2024. And this is the first lecture we are having after he left us. So we'll pay a 1-minute homage to him. So I would request everybody to please stand and maintain silence for next 1 minute. I would now request UA President Professor Parag Gokte to please escort our guest speaker as well as Professor Pandit and all the other dignitaries to the dais. So as mentioned, this lecture series is a brainchild of UA founding president Mr. Kishore Mariwala, and every oration is named after a luminary of UDCT, of course now called ICT. Some of you may have attended the earlier lectures where we hosted the first called Professor K. Venkatraman Memorial Oration, delivered by our own Padma Vibhushan Professor M.M. Sharma sir back in April 2018, followed by Professor G.M. Nabar Memorial Oration delivered by Shri R. Gopal Krishnan of Tata Sons in April 2019. Professor G.P. Kane Memorial Oration delivered by then CEO of Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant in May 2019. It was followed by Professor J.G. Kane Memorial Oration delivered by Shri Harsh Mariwala ji of Marico Limited in October 2020. Followed by Professor B.D. Tilak Memorial Oration delivered by Dr. Ajit Ranade, Group Executive President and Chief Economist, Aditya Birla Group in April 2021. The sixth in the series was again called Professor K. Venkatraman Memorial Oration and was held in April 2022 and was delivered by Dr. Madhuri Kanitkar, Vice Chancellor of the Maharashtra University of Health Sciences. The seventh in the series was again called Professor G.M. Nabar Memorial Oration and was delivered in April 2023 by Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, former Chief Scientist of World Health Organization, WHO. After that, we expanded the named series, and last year we included Dr. Homi Setna, another luminary from UDCT, and last year's lecture was called the Dr. Homi Setna Memorial Oration and was aptly delivered by by Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakorkar, former chairman of Atomic Energy in April 2024. This year's lecture is called Professor G.P. Kane Memorial Oration as we come back again on track. With this brief background, I would now like to welcome Professor Parag Gokte, President UDCT Alumni Association, to address the August gathering. Sir.
Right. So I would like to welcome you all to this particular memorial oration series, and we would like to also thank the Mariwala family now, with Ravi Mariwala in particular, who has kindly agreed to continue this particular lecture series. We will have the similar kind of orators we are expecting, some of the popular names, because to attract students sometimes we realize that it should be more popular rather than the technical part of that. So let's see, maybe we are just discussing about the prospective names, and Nandan Nilekani was also on one of the lists, so maybe we will have him as the next orator. I would like to just give you brief, because this is my first major function, I would say, after I took over as president. So essentially the Alumni Association is trying to help ICT in whatever ways we can do, mainly in terms of collecting funds, not, I would honestly say, not at par with what the IITs normally get and what normally the IIT alumni associations do, but we do have a start this year based on the donation by the Reliance Group, and many of you would have witnessed that particular event as well, and hoping that we get similar contributions in future as well. So our objective is, as I said, mainly to support ICT, not only in terms of funding infrastructure, but also in terms of students trying to help in their job placements, their industry visit, the internship, arranging guest lectures related to the curriculum, and of course the public lectures like this, because that definitely helps the students in terms of acquiring the necessary skill set, and we look forward to that. So I'll want to keep it brief, definitely not the students as a regular 55-minute lecture. The lecture is of course going to be delivered by Dr. Ganguly today. So again, I would like to welcome you all, and especially to the alumni. If you have anything in mind in terms of how you can give back to the institute, please reach out to me, and then we'll discuss about the different ways in which your support, not only the funding part, but also time in terms of training the students, helping them in terms of getting the required jobs and other things. So welcome once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Gopte. I would now like to invite Professor Pandit, Vice Chancellor of Institute of Chemical Technology, to speak a few words.
Good evening. Today's Professor G.P. Kane Memorial Orator, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Ashok Ganguly, President, UD Alumni Association, Professor Parag Gopte, Head of the Department of Chemical Engineering, Professor Anand Patwardhan, the promoter and the continuator of the legacy, Dr. Ravi Mariwala, Nilesh Lele, Padma Vibhushan Professor Sharma, Padma Bhushan Professor Joshi, all the past directors and those who have come here eagerly waiting to listen to the wise counsel of Dr. Ashok Ganguly. Dr. Ashok Ganguly is no stranger to ICT. He has been associated since a very long time. They have also sponsored projects. First project, to the best of my knowledge, was in biodegradable polymers, coming from when he was a chairman of Hindustan Unilever. I liked about the title of the talk, Ambition and Outcome. What tends to happen in the modern days with these numericals becoming more dominant, number of publications, citations, H-index, so on and so forth, these are measures of output. Now, there is a big difference between an output and an outcome. You can assess an output in the form of metrics which are measurable, but it is not possible for you to measure outcomes by using any methods, and you have to devise a method. You just saw today's Nobel laureate's CV. with H index of 27, total publications of 34. She would never fit in any of these conventional matrices. Still, she worked and got the Nobel Prize. What it clearly indicates is what is that thing which you have contributed in the form of that output is what is important. So you may have an ambition, but ambition cannot be restricted that I will have 500 publications by the time I retire. What those 500 publications really mean is what you should be worried about. What those 500 publications, if your objective is only to have publications and boast about your citations, that is going to be limited to the scientific community, not necessarily do the service which is required for industry, society, so on and so forth. So it is our job not only to look at the output may be necessary, is necessary for standard recognitions, conventional recognitions, but outcomes are the ones which you seriously think of and seriously worry about. I'm also very happy to tell you that one more initiative which we are starting this year is, you are probably aware that Sri Ravi Mariwala has agreed, and I have informed it, late Sri Kishore Mariwala was a music lover. So it has been planned to initiate a Indian classical music circle in ICT in the name of Sri Kishore Mariwala, and the first proponent of that is going to be no other than Dr. Arun Dravid. I will tell you the later dates and timings later on. So two have already been roped in. Dr. Arun Dravid is the first, let's say, singer, and the second is going to be Dr. Ashwini Bide Deshpande. Both know well of ICT, have been associated with ICT, and they have agreed. So the legacy of Sri late Kishore Mariwala doesn't stop, it continues, and I'm very happy that Ravi has taken that mantle and continues to assist ICT like his father did, considering its alma mater. Thank you very much, Ravi, and I would conclude by saying that I would like to profusely thank Dr. Ashok Ganguly for agreeing to our request and deliver this prestigious Professor G.P. Kane Memorial Lecture today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Pandit. So I would now like to request Dr. Ravi Mariwala to please say a few words. And also introduce our guest speaker.
Professor Pandit, Professor Gokte, thank you very much for having this lecture series continue out here. I am very grateful to ICT and all of you for continuing this series, and I'll be very happy to support it in any way which I can and continue what my father had started in this part. It's an honor and a privilege for me to introduce this remarkable individual, a scientist, a leader, a visionary, whose journey is an inspiration to all of us who believe in the power of learning, purpose, and perseverance. Dr. Ashok Ganguly was born in 1935 in Bihar and grew up in Bombay, now Mumbai, where he completed his schooling and college education. He was awarded the prestigious Homi Bhabha Scholarship at the Royal Institute of Science, a recognition of his academic brilliance and promise. His quest for knowledge then took him to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and where he earned his master's and PhD and a postdoctoral fellowship. At that time, he had considered an academic career. In fact, he had an offer also as an assistant professor. But I think then a good sense, I would not say good sense, but he made a choice. I think that is more important, to come back, which changed his life. And he came back to India to contribute to the country's industrial and scientific progress. And I think there is no looking back after that. He joined the newly established R&D center at Hindustan Lever, an institution that would benefit immensely from his scientific rigor and leadership. From research, he moved on to manufacturing and became the technical director, and in 1980 was appointed the chairman of Hindustan Lever Limited. In 1990, he was invited to join the parent board of Unilever in London, where he served until 1997 as the global head of research and development, engineering, safety, innovation, and environment. I think these are all the areas which are gaining tremendous importance today, but I think the vision clearly shows that what he started out here is still living on out here. In this role, he has not only influenced global innovation strategy, but also championed sustainability and safety, long before these became the buzzwords of today. For his contribution to science, business, and society, Dr. Ganguly has been honored with some of nation's and world's highest recognitions: the Padma Bhushan in 1988, Padma Vibhushan in 2009, CBE in 2005 from the United Kingdom. He was appointed honorary professor at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Shanghai, and later served as a nominated member of the Rajya Sabha. Beyond these many accolades, what distinguishes Dr. Ganguly is his humility, his love for learning, and his deep sense of purpose. He continues to find joy in books, Hindustani classical music, and long walks, and of course, a passionate golfer. That reflects his balanced and thoughtful life. His story reminds us that true leadership is not about power or position, but about clarity of purpose, compassion, and continuous growth. To the students here today, Dr. Ganguly's life offers a profound lesson. Be bold in your choices, stay grounded in your values, and let your knowledge serve a larger purpose. Sir, we are deeply honored to have you out here, and we find ourselves very fortunate to have you here. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Ashok Ganguly.
I think my introduction was over the top. It's raised expectations. I don't see anybody dozing as yet. And I'm now worried. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm worried that the look of expectation should not turn into a look of disappointment. I will try very hard. And the title of my talk arises from somewhere as we grow. We don't have the time, but we are shaken from time to time as to what we do is all about. And you really don't know what it's all about. Very few people, unless you reach my age and uselessness, will admit to that readily. I want to start at a point. I have a series of issues that I want to leave with you. Many of them are controversial, if not most. Now, why do we become what we become eventually? And since I'm in the same year, in terms of number of years I've lived, as the Dalai Lama, I and my daughters disagree as to what my age is. So I call it the year of the Dalai Lama. Nothing to do with his greatness, with my pardons. And when I cast my mind back, I realize that it is the first 10 or 12 years after your birth. And it's very controversial. Will make you what the eventual outcome is. The only reason that happens is not because of the genes that you inherit from your parents, because they have inherited several generations of genes. So there is no purity of genes. There is the occurrence of genes. That's probably an overwhelming influence on many outcomes, if not most, during your lifetime. And I found this out, or I stumbled upon this idea, which is very controversial, long, long after I had advanced in my age. So I question, why did I do the things that I have done? And where have I come as a consequence? And it is not illogical. It is not a matter of chance. Many people still believe that we really became a nation on the 15th of August 1947. We were a number of kingdoms in a heterogeneous country. The British, we were at one time, being anti-British was the fashion of the times. And the only reason the British were not liked because they played a very competent role in order to decide how best they could export the wealth of this nation to their own country, which the several kings and kingdoms before them, including the Mughals, were not terribly good at. And Mahatma Gandhi decided to quit politics when the Congress party agreed to the partition of the country. These were all happenings that are a part of our history. I'm not saying anything new. So some of the decisions that I had taken later are related to the historical attitudes of different generations, including mine and the younger generations, which are all here. That did we earn our freedom, and what have we done with it? And a very Indian habit, if not an international habit, is to be hypercritical without making any contribution to the advancement of the country. And this became a profound influence on me, especially when I spent time in the United States. But I have to take a step back. So after the first 10, 12 years that you grow up in home, and then you start making friends, start playing lagori and tennis ball cricket, when your external interests start overtaking your homely childhood, that is when you start forming your views and opinions. That's when you start learning Marathi, Gujarati, Parsi, Gujarati, Konkani, and so on and so forth. You start playing gully cricket. You make friends. I didn't do terribly well in school at all. I was consistently at the bottom quartile of my class. When somebody asked me, who were the well-known alumni from your school? I really had to ask somebody and found out only one. And that gentleman turned out and sort of saved that evening by saying, Nani Palkiwala. Now, why Nani would have gone to that school, I didn't have the guts to ask him. And I remained in the bottom quartile, which was eventually overtaken by my failure in the SSC exam in the subject of Sanskrit. And that was my shake-up moment. But the only consistent face that I used to look at when I did not do well, which was perpetually, was my father. And he was never perturbed. My mother would be deeply worried. She was deeply worried when she taught us Bengali, to read and write Bengali, take higher classes in Bengali, only on weekends, Saturday, half day, Sunday. So I missed the chance of being a good tennis ball cricketer as well. But the tremendous transformation takes place at certain point of one's life, which happened to me when I went to the university. As a matter of fact, I was mortified by not being able to pass my matric at the first attempt. I lost a year. And without going into my high points, which are boring, I did well in university, and I was very pleased. I think my father was also pleased, but he would not be trivial about these things, by being awarded the Homi Bhabha Scholarship to do my PhD at the Institute of Science. And the subject that I chose was, say, magnetic resonance of bonds to describe the flexibility of molecules and their participation in reactions. It was exciting, very, very exciting, but misfortune had still not abandoned me. I'm calling it misfortune as an excuse. Because my professor, I could not excite him with anything until I decided to leave. You know, the choice was that should I abandon the Homi Bhabha scholarship and be called all my life as a Homi Bhabha scholar, or take up a change, because I cannot be patient with my uninterested professor, because it will reflect on my doctoral work. And that's when I went to the University of Illinois on a fully paid residency. And I continued to work on molecular dynamics, especially of large molecules. And I chose beta-lactoglobulin, which is a soluble protein, and its behavior under different circumstances. Those were the popular subjects in those days. And that is what enamored me with America. University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, which is a small rural town with a big university, was by itself attractive because you are not distracted by other things. And I continued my postdoctoral fellowship with discovering different forces in play, and chose that as a subject that I would continue to do. And I wanted to be an academic. So after 6 years of MS, PhD, postdoctoral fellowship, I was offered a job as an assistant professor on the West Coast which I was pleased about that I would come back. And on the way back to India, I stopped in Sweden to meet Professor Tiselius. And I spent a day and a half with Professor Tiselius, and he offered me a year's fellowship to continue the work that I had started through a technique that he had established, which was called in those days electrophoresis. And I came back to India. After 6 years, my parents, both of whom had dark black hair, and I was standing on the third floor of the ship, and when I looked down, I saw both of them looking the same, but there was some difference. When I left, they both had dark hair. After 6 years, they both had gray hairs. But it was a great time to come back. And it took me, I stayed in India for over 3 months before I decided that I said, what do I do when I go back to America? What will life be like? And that was a challenge one faced. Cut a long story short, I worked in CSI. I was a pool officer in those days. Most of you may not have heard about the pool officers. You got 450 rupees given by the central government to look out for whatever you wanted to do. That was not a small amount of money those days. That's when I joined the research department of Hindustan Lever, mainly because I was posted in Punjab, and I used to look for companies which advertised for recruitment and gave a free ticket, or they paid the price of the ticket, a 3-day stay when you apply to them for a job and if they wanted to interview you. But I joined Hindustan Lever. And I got the freedom to continue my work, besides some product development and other things, to continue the work about the forces that keep large molecules native. And why do they move to the non-native stage? That was my personal interest, and I was allowed to do that. And during the decade of the 60s, when I was with Hindustan Lever, the research department was still in temporary quarters in the factory, and a brand new laboratory was built by Dr. Varadarajan, and the support he got from Unilever. Because in India, our business would have collapsed if we had not recruited a group of outstanding organic chemists, which Unilever also helped us do, from all over the world. And they discovered soap used to be made with tallow, a little bit of coconut oil and other things. The whole discovery of minor oils was one of the biggest achievements of the scientists who worked on those areas. The first reaction of the Indian business when asked by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, what do we do with foreign business? The first reaction was throw them out. Naturally, so that they could recover the business very easily. But Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was a different kind of man. Vallabhbhai Patel, Nehru, Rajendra Prasad, they were giants. That as long as they are adding to our revenues, why throw them out? Because they cannot again rule this country anyway. And possibly our most outstanding chairman during whose time I joined Hindustan Lever, was Prakash Tandon. Prakash Tandon. And he received an advice from the well-known civil servant who was that time working with Panditji after spending time as the Reserve Bank governor. He said the only protection you can get is if Hindustan Lever was a 100% foreign company. He says you just float 5% of your shares in the Bombay market. And if the Bombay shareholders get excited, that will be the signal that will convince the government that you have some value. And that is how the whole thing built up. This story, I think, should be publicized a little more, that nobody welcomes you warmly without finding out what you have to offer. That's human nature, and that's reality. Nothing to be critical about. So I joined that company, and I was sent on various assignments also around the world from the research division in the United Kingdom, to Sri Lanka on a tea project, to New Jersey for a year, and I then got married in India. I had an arranged marriage, which turned out to be the greatest source of happiness, and the enthusiasm with which I could do whatever I wanted to do, how much time I spent in the office or in the laboratories or going around, because I knew, my elder daughter is here, by the way, she is also listening to my lecture, that my wife, I had an arranged marriage, most wonderful thing happened to me. My wife was a gem of a quiet performer and gave me the peace and quiet, which even I didn't realize, to do whatever I wanted in my workplace. And much of what I achieved, I have achieved. Now, it's not great, but whatever was there was due to her role in bringing up our children, our home, peace, tranquility, love, affection, and the freedom to think beyond the horizon. But I didn't realize myself that life was about to change again. Deciding not to go and live in America and become an American, and to get thrown out at my age, which is quite possible. But there was no, I was impressed by what India had done. I was impressed that the states reorganization, I was impressed by cooperative federalism adopted by Nehru, the Nehru-Mahalanobis model of planning, the state-center relationships. We are so critical that we underestimate the giant steps that India took at its most critical moment of change, from being run by foreigners to create a new India. And people don't think about it, they don't write about it. We don't have to jump with it. But why India is because of what they did. Number two, you remember, none of you are at that in the age group where you will remember the ship-to-mouth misbehavior of Lyndon Johnson and the United States. Trump is today. Lyndon Johnson was worse than Trump. He would keep the ships in mid-sea in order to torture India. The Green Revolution was the discovery of an American. And C. Subramanian and Professor Swaminathan converted the discovery of hardy seeds in difficult climates to produce the food grains, which we popularly call the Green Revolution. India was, that's what I noticed, and that attracted more than that I would get a job in Bombay with Hindustan Lever. I said, this country has changed, even in 6 years. And we heard nothing about it when we were living in America. You didn't get. The embassies were not interested. They still are not interested. I don't want to say it, but I don't want it to be recorded. See, some of the biggest disservice that this country has faced, and I ask this all the time, what were the civil servants doing? They were the brightest and best of our people. What were they doing? Why were they not advising? Were their listeners unhappy about their advice? No. They're some of the brightest and best people in this country. Why did they sit on the sidelines watching the fun rather than making a contribution? Leave that aside. The reality is the politicians were far more aware of what the nation wanted and what needed to be done. Mistakes would be made, but that would have represented the chances were taken. And I said, my God, this is all excitement. It's not only the train fare from Punjab to Bombay to appear for interviews that attracted me, but it was certainly helpful. But what attracted me, what our leaders were doing. And I think we should be very proud of, especially I see a lot of young faces, that nothing happens perfectly. If everything happened perfectly, we might have ended up with a chap like Trump ruling us today. Everything stumbles, everything falls, everything rises, and that makes the character of people. Anyway, my honeymoon with the structure of beta-lactoglobulin faced difficulty. After my world trips and all that, first of all, our laboratory in Rotterdam wanted my wife and I, we didn't have children at that time, but wife and I, to become Dutch citizens and live in that country. It took us exactly 3.5 minutes to decide that we didn't want to do it. We didn't want to be part of a country which had only 16 million people, and even such a small population, they had the choice by mutual agreement to sign on a piece of paper called euthanasia. That if you become old and a burden, whether they readily signed it or whether they were made to sign it, that's a different argument. But I said, one day we will also get old. And do we want to live in a country of 1 billion people? Or do we want to live in a country of 16 million people? I said, just the toss of the coin. I said, we'll do much better in India. So we were happy to come back. When I came back, and I was again going to start and seek a little leave to go to Uppsala in Sweden to work with Tiselius, our chairman that time, Mr. Tandon, had retired. Mr. Rajadaksha was the chairman. And Mr. Rajadaksha and Thomas, who was to succeed him subsequently, called me and said that we believe that you should be painting on a wider canvas. Cut a long story short, they said you have to run factories and manage people. I must admit that it was a very difficult choice. But I also understood that the chairman and technical director don't call you to have a chat. It seemed like a chat, but it was, he said, you better. I could have left, of course. I decided on the same day going back home that this is unavoidable, and I'm enjoying it, but this is unavoidable if this is what I might be good at, and even I don't know. So that is when the life took another turn. And I enjoyed it enormously. And about 6 years' time, after doing a lot of work around the country, that I was invited to join the board of Hindustan Lever. And then the rest of the story is reasonably well known. I mean, there was no sacrifice. There was no sort of giving up some good thing. These are natural things which unfold. So your consequences are not obvious. It only becomes obvious after the fact. And I have been exceptionally fortunate on the statistical probability of succeeding in something. And I don't have any airs that if you follow this route, you will get here or there. There is no such rule. These are opportunities that come in organizations, in institutions of higher learning. And Manmohan knows it. We have seen many people who have been found, rather they themselves have found, where they are going to end up in. I thought that I would give the title that I've given to the talk, because that's how my mind works. And that's what my experience is all about. But it's an issue that each one of us faces by being aware of it sometimes and being unaware of it. Being unaware of it produces greater joy rather than trying to achieve a goal or something. I mean, this might sound very contrary, but I strongly believe that if you are aware of where you want to go rather than how you want to go there, that is more likely to be achieved rather than planning your own future. I'm deeply honored that the Dr. Kane Memorial Lecture, I know, is of such great value. As a matter of fact, I keep on forgetting ICT. Please excuse me for that. I always remember UDCT. And that I didn't end up in UDCT maybe because I didn't make the grade. Not making the grade also has its advantages. Sorry? So, the purpose of my relating within the time that was available to me is an issue that none of us is really special. We are ordinary mortals. It's like going into the rough sea and trying to swim. You do not know where the next wave is going to take you. And therefore, having firm ideas where you wish to go, how you wish to go, is going to be extremely frustrating. Because we don't decide. Somebody else decides. We might believe, we might feel pompous that we are the originators of all the great ideas, and therefore my greatness, with excuses to the director, that's rubbish. But Gopal who is my guru in writing, and I've worked together for many years. Dr. Sharma and I are old friends. He had his ambitions, but he also went through the rough seas. If any of us sitting here haven't gone through the rough seas, I can assure you, it's a great deal of fun, especially when the swimming is over. I'm extremely grateful, sir, for being invited, because my respect for Mr. Mariwala was enormous, because he comes from a very well-to-do family, but that did not deter him from creating more wealth for the good of others. And now when I meet the next generation, if every generation does not add value, worth, and relief to society, then I think the age of Dalai Lama becomes frustrating. And my greatest joy is to, my greatest loss was my wife's demise. It's only after that I realized why I had the wings to fly and who was providing the energy for the wing. And that is how life goes on. And I'm not saying that there is not a touch of good fortune. The first 10 years, 12 years after your birth, my school records would have made any parents desperate. And I didn't feel the desperation even for a moment. My mother used to teach us Bengali. See, the reason I'm grateful to my mother, because she taught us to read and write Bengali, is because that's the only way I could communicate with her for the next 6 years when I was in the United States. So everything, every pain, every frustration has a silver lining. And I'm very proud to be able to share this with you, because while I was talking, I'm sure many of the people were thinking, but what happened to me? What was my life like? And you will all know that if life was all happiness, it would have been miserable. I thank you for your patience. I'm quite happy to answer both agreeable and disagreeable questions. And I am extremely grateful. I feel honored to give the Kane Memorial Lecture, which we have heard about from our childhood, and to come to these great institutions once more and meet everybody. I could not have done if I was stuck somewhere in San Diego. The warmth, the closeness, the friendship, and being an Indian is one of the greatest joy. I'm not publicizing it for any political party or anybody. That's the way I feel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a captivating speech. Sir, with your permission, can we take a couple of questions? Yeah, many questions, agreeable and disagreeable.
They've been all quiet into silence. I'm happy to take it.
Yeah.
Sir, my name is Dr. Kranti Sagar, pass out from ICT. Excellent lecture. Nowadays, we are seeing that Trump is making any of sanctions and all. And though you work with the multinational company, what upcoming time India is required? What we need to put our efforts, being a researcher, being a business person. So, can you please enlighten us?
You know, I didn't talk about disappointments. See,
It's on. Let's bring it near.
yeah,
Bring it closer.
you know, with all the positive things that India has done, that we still don't have the, I mean, leave IT out. Leave the things that we know has happened in the last few years. I'll tell you a story. While I was working with Hindustan Lever, 3 groups of Indian Americans and white Americans came to India, and they wanted to set up semiconductor units. And I was reasonably familiar with the government of India and people in it. And to get them to meet the finance minister became an uphill task. The finance minister is so busy that and they did not want money from India. They wanted place where to site those semiconductor companies. The finance minister could not see them for 3 months. And then I had to request the prime minister. And by that time, they had lost interest. One of them moved to Singapore. The other two, where they moved, I can't remember anymore. But the Singapore unit thrives like crazy. So, you know, there is a commercial, whatever the newspapers might write, there is a commercial rivalry in the system where the success of Indian companies are not celebrated, especially in the stock exchange and other places, like they are in the countries which have advanced technologically. I'm afraid. The government is responsible, the business groups are responsible. We pretend that we celebrate success. We must ask ourselves, do we really? We haven't achieved what we could have achieved. If we could achieve the Green Revolution, this country could have achieved anything.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Thanks for sharing a lot of wisdom, sir.
Sorry, yes.
A lot of wisdom from you. Thanks for sharing them. Just a curious question. Have you thought about any of road not taken, that you haven't taken certain paths, and have you wondered if I had taken that, something would have been different?
Once I take a decision, I don't speculate what might have been better. Now, this is not a great quality to have, to not challenge yourself. To not challenge yourself. But if you are preoccupied with what could have happened, you will suffer in not focusing on what more can happen. That's my personal view.
Thank you. I think we had a hand at the back. Someone like Nilesh.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Om Prakash Nautiyal, PhD and Life Alumni from UD City.
We can hear you.
How much satisfied or dissatisfied are you with your professional career?
I'm very proud of it.
And what is the failure versus success in your career?
Sorry?
What is the failure versus success in your career?
Failure.
The percent of failure and the percent of
Let me talk about failures first. You fail if you don't build people who are superior to you, who are going to succeed you. You feel happy about people who surpass you because you have built them. So, happiness and unhappiness are individual thoughts and behavior. And it is what one believes in. I think a deep-seated belief is a great driving force. I don't know whether I've answered you.
Thank you, sir. You answered me, but the thing is that as you said that you have to peel your superiors or seniors,
Sorry?
if I get you rightly.
Sorry?
Did you say that you have to peel your seniors or superiors, something like that? No. I didn't get your that clarification.
Sorry?
Did you talk about the successors?
Yeah.
Successors. So you mean to say that that was regarding the hard competition to them?
Well, see, you don't succeed as an individual.
Yeah.
On broader canvas, you succeed because of an organization. You have a very small role to play. The role you play is how you build your successors to be superior to you. And that you have to have that attitude and a mindset when your students surpass you in scholarship rather than fail in reaching your level. So seeing the next generation being better, which in India, I'm afraid, is not a very widespread practice.
It is in Udicity, sir. It is in Udicity.
Udicity is an exception, which proves the rule actually. Yes,
Thank you.
Teachers are proud, very proud of the achievements of their
Absolutely.
students.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
But I have got a very bitter experience of the corporate life wherever I worked. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take one last question.
Raj.
You have been leader in industrial R&D, being R&D director in Hindustan Lever, and later on member of scientific executive, prime minister, chairman of ICS Knowledge Park. A lot of things you did in the field of research technology. My question is, we are still 0.65% of our GDP on R&D, and industry still plays a very small role in that R&D. What can we do to increase that percentage?
It's a very difficult question. If a whole nation is not only, or large parts of a nation, not a whole nation, large parts of a nation is preoccupied by pulling others down, to rise above that is a very difficult, it's a trait. I think we have to be open, honest, and discuss it far more openly. When the newspapers in this country are all a bunch of yes sir, 3 bags full sir. When the politicians are more involved with religion and history rather than religion and the future, can we change? Am I disappointed? I'm not disappointed because I have remained excited all my life because I choose to look at the positives, because I don't have the ability to deal with the negatives or get rid of them. I've had many approaches to become this minister, that minister. I spent 6 years in the Rajya Sabha. They were the most miserable years of my lifetime. And I have to be very open about it. I said, we waste government money, shut the house repeatedly, go and drink free coffee, have a free lunch, live in bungalows, and criticize the rest of the world. It's a shameful thing. Our politics is shameful. And is it going to change? It won't change. So the type of people who succeed in politics, I'm afraid, you and I should forget about it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, quick questions.
Sir,
Hello. Sir, during your talk you mentioned ban on mutton tallow. During your tenure,
yes,
I was working for Wipro
yes,
and we were supplying you distilled hydrogenated rice bran fatty
Yes.
acids. So I was the person involved in that.
great.
And in fact, the kind of pressure from liver was so much that even if one tanker delivery is less, I was answerable right up to Premji. So it was a very demanding
It was.
phase of life. And in fact, your raw material, when Crowning Glory soap was launched, I was the person instrumental supplying to your
Thank you.
Khamgaon factory, to your Chiplun factory.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to inform you.
No, great. I thank you very much personally,
Yeah,
deeply.
Thank you. Okay, now, one from the student, ekdam last. I think my takeaway is how to be so positive and active at age 90, right? Yeah, quick.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Shubham. I recently joined here as a PhD student. I just want to ask a question related to ambition. So, means how we can balance our life of ambition with patience. Like, I just want to ask that.
A good question.
Like, as a researcher, we have to be patient, but to achieve our ambition, we are not that much patient. So, how we can deal with that?
I talked about the influence of growing up in the first 10, 12 years of your life. And if you look back, if you look back to the environment that you've grown up in, and then you move into the environment which is a larger environment of growing children. And when you look around yourself and ask yourself the question whether my ambitions are realistic and achievable, or should I challenge myself more? I think these are the issues young people have to raise, because unless you shame the people of my age, we are not going to change as a country involved in keeping our competition down. One of the biggest crimes we are committing is trying to suppress competition. Rather than encourage competition, reducing prices, challenging the government and its policies, and finding out. And I think somebody has to raise the question, what are the civil servants doing to change things in this country? It is not only the politicians, it is the system. But don't give up. Your age group must not give up like we did not give up when we were your age. no excuse blaming others.
Great. Okay. Great. So, as a sign of our love, we would like to give you a token of appreciation, sir. And for that, I would request Dr. Ravi Mariwala, Professor Gokte, and Professor Pandit. Should we go in the front, sir? You want to do it here? Photo in a study? Vote of thanks. You're almost about to end. So, now that we have reached to the end of today's program, it's a custom that current departmental head proposes a vote of thanks. Since Professor G.P. Kane was from Chemical Engineering Department, I would request Professor Anand Patwardhan, Head, Department of Chemical Engineering, to propose a vote of thanks, followed by the national anthem.
Yeah, just Anand, one more thanks. So we would like to also thank Dr. Ravi Mariwala to continue the tradition in terms of supporting this particular lecture series.
Thank you, Nilesh. Before I start with formal vote of thanks, personally, I mean, the whole lecture was quite illuminating, but 2 points that touched me more than the others is, you said the air under the wings is pause. That's, I think all of us will agree. And then during question answer, before question answers, sir, you mentioned that if everyone agrees, I'll be disappointed, something like that. So that's very rare because most of us live in agriculture, AGREE, and in that coming, this sentence is rare. So please, so disagreement is required, not every time, but once in a while, we must. So good evening again, ladies and gentlemen, all dignitaries on and off the campus, off the dais, our dear students, well, current and past students, our alumni, quite a few here. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to officially thank today's eminent guest speaker, Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Ashok Ganguly sir, former chairman of HLL, Hindustan Lever Limited, Professor Pandit, our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir of Institute of Chemical Technology, for taking out their valuable time from their busy schedule and being a part of the UDCT Alumni Association's, UAA's, Professor G.P. Kane Memorial Oration. A special thanks, obviously, to esteemed Mariwala family for initiating this series of Mariwala lectures in the names of luminaries from UDCT, ICT. Special thanks to my teachers there, Professor Manmohan Sharma sir, Professor J.B. Joshi sir. Both of them taught me. Prof. J.D. Yadav, I think, could not make it today. And all the other ICT faculty members, some are present, some are not present here. Advisory board members of UAA, UDCT Alumni Association's BOG member, students, and everybody who is attending and could not attend this function. And with this, with kind permission of our charming Senior Vice President Nilesh, let me announce the official closure of today's program, and I request everyone to please stand for our national anthem. Please start here. Jana Gana Mana Adhinayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Banga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchhala Jaladhitaranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाए तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे